Sumo wrestlers are some of the world's biggest and strongest competitors alive. But in a lot of the world's eyes, they're also the most unhealthy. So is it a dangerous lifestyle to eat copious amounts of food and train your body to its absolute limits, all for the glory of wrestling? Well, I'll do some research, ask some experts, and put myself to the test. 1, trying to win a national sumo championship, but 2, digging deeper into my own health. But first, I do need to win this national sumo championship. The only way to do that, train.
Oh, wait a minute!
Sorry guys, I was just trying out some moves for nationals. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, I guess before you can really like answer whether or not something is healthy, what are like health metrics that are important? Obviously we all know the BMI, but that scale's kind of skewed. So let's see here. Body composition, blood pressure, blood sugar levels, cholesterol, resting heart rate. Okay, so I don't have these things for the average sumo wrestler, but I have dedicated the better part of my last 2 years, 3 years, to becoming a better sumo wrestler. So I'll do the best I can. Let's measure all those things while getting ready for nationals. We'll also compare to the pros, because like, I don't look like, my legs don't look like this, right? Like it's not bad. It's not bad, but it's not the same. Let's take a second to talk about BMI. BMI, body mass index, takes your height and your weight, does a little calculationatory, and gives you a number. This was initially created to get an idea of a population's obesity rate. It can be flawed on a person-to-person basis because it doesn't take into account lean mass. This is the BMI scale. Anything under 18.5 is underweight. 18.5 to 24.9, normal weight. 25 to 29.9 is overweight. And then anything over 30 is obese. Let's compare, let's say myself. My BMI is 33.6. I am obese. Did you say a beast? Let's compare that to the highest ranking sumo wrestler right now, the Yokozuna Hoshoryu. You know, because we're pretty much the same. He's 6'2", 326. He has a BMI of 41.9, well over obese. But if you were to type in either of our BMIs online, you see an image that looks more like this. Pretty much what I'm saying is you can't really take someone's height and weight and automatically understand how healthy they are. So as far as health goes, I'm gonna say BMI is not specific enough to help us understand exactly how healthy they are. The reason being, training and diet. Since I'm already getting ready for a big competition, I'm gonna take you guys to a couple of our practices at Raijin Sumo. This training is definitely anaerobic. Matches lead to spiked heart rates for short periods of time, and then you stop and maybe you rest, or maybe you go back again, but there's more time that you're resting than you are wrestling. So you're training your heart to peak pretty high and then come back down pretty quick so you can relax and not overuse your muscles in your heart. Because it is a pushing-based sport that can end at any second, this very quickly becomes a very intense, full-body workout. I've noticed through the 3 years of doing sumo, I've become much more muscularly dense. In Japan, they have these sumo training sessions twice a day, 3 hours each. I can't do that here. So I supplement my training with judo and weight training. But both of these training styles would definitely lead to muscle mass. If you made it this far, I'm assuming the mawashi doesn't bother you. But if it does, I honestly want you to take a closer look than the mawashi. Don't look away, don't squint. Look at the definition in the legs of these competitors. Look at the size of their back. They do have body fat, but that muscle mass is there, and there's a lot of it. How much muscle mass, I don't exactly know yet. Obviously, the more muscle you can get, the better you can push someone, the more matches you win. In a sport where being bigger is better, how much of this weight is muscle mass? Well, that's why someone would take a Dexa scan, like we're about to. All right, I am on my way to go get my Dexa scan in like 15 minutes. I kind of want to guess, and you guys can guess too, I guess. This is my body. I'm gonna guess, I don't know. I kind of want to guess higher than lower. I definitely keep most of my fat around here, 27% maybe. I definitely am not in the teens. I don't really know what to expect, to be honest. This is a little, it's so in-depth and personal that like, there's no way my feelings aren't going to be hurt, right? Like, I'm a bigger guy. I've always known I'm a bigger guy. A DEXA scan is usually done to help people understand their bone mass, but it is overall the most effective way to help you understand how much lean muscle you have, how much fat you have, how dense your bones are, and probably more stuff too that I'm not smart enough to know.
49. All right, we're going to have you lay on your back now.
Okay.
That's going to be at this end. Aim for this middle line there. First page that we have for you today is our hard data page, and so you can see across the top we do measure body fat percentage, total mass, fat mass, lean mass, and the BMC here, bone mineral contents. That's how much your bones weigh.
Okay.
We'll look at density here in just a second. Today here we see white obviously is your skeleton,
Yeah.
red is your soft lean tissue, so you can kind of get a good idea of what your muscle structure looks like in there, and then the orange to yellow, that would be the fat. And so again, that is our hard data for the report.
I just realized you guys are seeing me totally naked right now. Nice.
Our first analysis that we have, we'll start down here in the corner since we've already looked at this, and your body fat percentage right now at 28.6. Again, optimal health for men generally considered 10 to 25%. We do have centiles and z-scores on the report today, so right now your body fat percentage would be considered higher than 63% of 30-year-old white males. Limbs lean mass index, this is going to be the portion of your BMI that is arm and leg lean tissue. Generally for males, we love to see that number over 8. You're at 12.2, so you're doing phenomenally well, better than 100% of your peers, but the more important one is bone density.
Okay.
Now, your bone density higher than 96% of your peers, you're doing very well. Again, we see 8.8 pounds of bones.
It's a lot of bones.
Next page that we're going to have is our adipose page. So we're going to talk about fat on this page. Probably one of the more important numbers on the whole report, and this is something called your visceral adipose tissue. Okay. Now, visceral adipose tissue, you may hear it called organ fat, belly fat, brown fat. So there's two reasons why this fat is really very dangerous. Number one is simply where it's located. If you can see here, it's kind of in the abdominal cavity, and if we were to see a 3D look, it would be around the organs.
Sure.
But the problem is because there's not a lot of room in here, too much fat will distend that abdominal muscle out, forcing fat into the organs. That stresses the organs and raises cortisol levels. Of course, we don't want to do that. We see that the total fat mass in your visceral adipose tissue in your android region is coming in at 2.35 pounds, but our metric is more the volume. And our volume right now is 68.98, just a little bit high. We like to see it under 60.
Okay.
So our stats for that one, or scale would be under 60 is healthy, 60 to 112 is elevated, anything over 112 would be considered high risk.
Okay.
And what are those high risk? It's the big ones. It's heart disease, heart attack, stroke, diabetes, high blood pressure, even certain forms of cancer.
Gotcha.
So we definitely want to keep this one under control.
So to summarize, I have a higher body fat percentage than 63% of white males my age. I have a higher lean mass ratio than 98% of the people in that same group, higher bone density than 99% of people like me, and I have a little bit more visceral fat than I should, which I think was the most surprising thing.
Awesome, yes, sir.
I appreciate it.
Appreciate
This
it,
is
man.
fantastic.
Awesome.
I think some of the things that are most interesting about this, my legs weigh 44 pounds apiece, roughly. So that's information. That was the most detailed thing I've ever been through. Yeah, I can't lie, that totally hurt my feelings. Fast forward a good bit of time, we were doing something I like to call gravel jiu-jitsu. It's a long story, I'll explain later.
I can't move.
I asked a very qualified friend of mine named Bren his take on this.
Hey, Bren, do me a favor. Look at this. That's my Dexa scan. Is there anything that stands out to you comparing my body weight, my attributes to the average person?
A lot of people that are lighter or are not so heavy, they actually have really high body fat percentage. So they're actually like way up in 30s, 35s, 38. So Seth, you at 249 being, what is this, 28.6% body fat is actually super impressive.
Thank you.
Nice work.
Thanks, man. So what do you think is the cause of that?
I mean, I don't know all your training. I know you do some shake weight business.
I actually exclusively use shake weight. Yeah. Would it surprise you that this is not uncommon for sumo wrestlers specifically?
That does surprise me, actually. I guess because it feels like sumo wrestlers are notorious for like having bad diets and like force feeding themselves really to just gain as much weight as possible.
That's definitely a thing.
But yeah, I guess, you know, pro sumo wrestlers are like really training a lot.
I think the main difference between myself and sumo wrestlers are they also get lots of sleep. Like lots of sleep. They train in the morning, they eat, then they sleep, then they train 3 hours again, and then they eat, and then they sleep for the night. I don't do that. I have a poor sleep schedule, and sometimes I eat fast food.
Your diet and your food quality really affects much more the proportion of visceral fat that you're going to have, rather than your training. Your training is going to affect more like calories in, calories out, and like what your weight is, what your body weight set point is, and how much fat you lose, but not where that fat is.
That makes a lot of sense.
Which brings us to the average diet of a sumo wrestler. Professional sumo wrestlers in Japan eat this thing called chanko nabe. A lot of people call it sumo stew. It's comprised of a lot of meats and vegetables and rice. Pretty lean, but then you look at how much they eat, up to 10,000 calories a day for some of these wrestlers. Can you have too much of a good thing? It's possible. If you don't look at the sheer amount of calories they're eating, this is a very healthy diet. Lots of greens, lots of protein, carbs to fuel their exercise, and very, very little processed foods. Now, me in the States here, I try to eat 2,500 to 3,000 calories a day. I pretty consistently eat a gram of protein for every pound of weight I have, but living in the States, I don't eat as much non-processed foods. You know, I'll go to Costco, some of my stuff's frozen. I'll go to Chick-fil-A, I'll get a slice of pizza, maybe a donut, as long as it fits my macros and calories, which explains the visceral fat. Good to know, something I'm working on now. But there's lots of stories about professional rikishi force feeding. 6,000, 7,000, 10,000 calories a day. I've tried it for videos in the past, and it is so hard to do, especially with something as clean as chanko nabe. And this kind of led me down a research rabbit hole. I think one of the reasons that I lean towards sumo wrestling being unhealthy, think about this right now. How many people over 6 feet tall do you know that are older than like 82? I don't think it's just that people shrink. I do think people shrink. So I want to look something up real quick. Average sumo wrestler is 6'1", 325. Now when I say 6'1", 325 pounds, you probably think average person doesn't look like, look at this man. Look at Toshi. Good gracious. Pretty consistently, I found research that showed both like collegiate level sumo wrestlers and even like Makuuchi division Rikishi having between 20 and 30% body fat. Okay, so the Dexa scan shows between 20 and 30% for most of these sumo wrestlers. When you look at the size of them and then still keeping 30%, dog, that's crazy. I want to bring up something you're probably thinking right now. There's definitely so many sumo wrestlers that are above 20 to 30%. When it comes to things like accurately measuring weight or health metrics, it's much easier for smaller people to do it, physically and mentally. Not only will it be hard to get a full scan of someone this size, but I can also imagine that the heavier you get, the harder it is to get this scan done mentally. I had a hard time. And then after the fact, I was like, let me compare my numbers to other people's numbers I found online. And only skinny people get Dexa scans. You guys are already ripped. I don't care how much body fat you have. You're a skinny mini. Or you're super lean and jacked. You already won. Sorry, you see, okay, I don't know where that came from. You see what I mean though? Looking back, 20 to 30% clearly isn't everyone. I would guess maybe 25 to 40% is closer, but that doesn't take away from anything. I mean, you can look at their legs and see muscle definition, that it's the size of, I don't know, an oak tree. And it also shows pretty consistently visceral fat's pretty low. We've already talked about this. One thing that I thought was more important than just the body fat percentage would be their lifespan. And probably as expected, it's lower than average. About 20 years lower than the average Japanese male. And going with my gut, I would contribute that to not keeping the same level of physical activity, having a stomach capacity for insane amounts of food, and then injuries that you would sustain going through sumo, which we'll talk about later. But later in life, these gladiators do tend to suffer from more strokes, diabetes, heart, bone, and joint problems. And it's something that a wrestler like Aurora probably saw coming. Here's an article where a former Rikishi Mikhakinov. Yep, no worries, Seth, I'll take it from here. His wrestling name was Aurora. He was at one point weighed in at the largest a sumo wrestler ever had been, over 650 pounds. He once fought in the third highest division of sumo, Makushita. He's been quoted to say, "It's never easy to stay healthy as long as you're living the life of a sumo wrestler. Diabetes lowers your immunity levels, so you catch colds more readily and it takes longer for your wounds to get better," he says. When he was wrestling, he had hypertension and a top blood pressure of 180. He was advised and encouraged by seniors in his sumo stable to eat more and more and more, that he'll grow stronger, which is probably true, but also putting the risk of your health kind of on the back burner for the success and glory you might find short term. Since he's finished wrestling, he's lost a lot of weight and is definitely healthier because of it. But when it comes to diet, these guys are definitely going high risk, high reward. They are not eating in the moment to live long, healthy lives. They are eating in the moment to become as strong, large, and successful as possible in each and every match. Speaking of success in matches, the time has come. The training has ended. If I'm going to talk all this talk about sumo, it's about time that I walk the walk too. How about I go out there and try and win a back-to-back National Sumo Championship? How healthy would that be?
Seth's first match, right in second. Big hit. Ryden keeping his hands high, and Seth pulls him down.
Yep.
Man, Seth, you could tell, you could see Seth, you could see Seth definitely change game plan there.
Yeah, no, he wasn't kidding. I was in a light heavyweight division that I think was even more stacked than it was last year. There's quite a few guys in here that I think could beat me at any given match. And the odds are if I'm gonna win the whole thing, I'm gonna have to go against the best.
We are going back up to the winner's bracket. The winner of this match will go on to face Cornelius, but Seth on the left, Danny on the right. Seth, Danny, and Corny are the three medalists from last year, and all of them still in it. All of them showing good sumo so far. Big hit. Seth gets the initial push, but Danny fights it back. Big throw from Seth with the underarm throw. That was a good sukuinage there.
Now obviously there's a difference between pro and amateur sumo. We're in a weight division, which doesn't exist in pros, but I think it makes for more exciting, closely matched bouts here in the amateurs.
We got the upper division finals for light heavyweight. The winner here between Seth on the left and Cornelius on the right. Winner moves on to the finals.
Adam Kidd on the east, Jay Scriven on the west.
Oh, Seth gets the initial push. Corny circles, but Seth takes the win. That was some significant power there.
Seth, see, he's got a lot of different approaches he can take once the match has started, and he goes for a hazuoshi, right? Double armpit pushing. He's kind of very dense and tight, good defensive, not too committed, but kind of a safe start.
A nice balanced way to use power for your first step.
And if it goes well, he can use the initiative and run him out. And if it doesn't, it's good enough that he can then reset on the belt where he has all these different tricks from all the different martial arts that he's learned. So he's a very exciting guy to watch.
Yeah.
Look forward to it.
Very quickly in this double elimination tournament, 16 competitors turns to 4. Danny, TJ, and Cornelius have one loss on their record and are fighting for a spot in the gold medal match. And I'm watching from the sidelines some of the closest matches I've seen in a long time.
We got for the fire on the west. On the east, Josh Ortiz. On the west, Nick West. On deck, we've got Dominus on the east, Hayden on the west.
All right, our light heavyweight finals. Again, TJ will have to win twice. If Seth wins this match, it's over, and Seth is the gold medal winner.
On the east, from Porter. On the west.
Here we go. TJ comes in very low. Seth with the throw attempt. First one not happening. TJ hanging on. Seth rolling him back and forth. TJ staying with it. Oh, and Seth takes the win.
Just Uwate over Uwate over Uwate.
Beautiful defense from TJ for the first a bunch of throws, but yeah, it only takes
And
one.
the gold medalist is Seth. On that two, Ryan on the east, Robert on the west.
And the 2025 men's light heavyweight gold medalist is Seth Adams.
This first prize, it's a technique prize. Because anybody who is exceptional and actually does a whole breadth of techniques, not just Yorikiri or Oshidashi. So, that winner is Seth. Mr. USA!
Oh, sorry, I didn't see you there. I'm back, obviously. One thing you probably didn't know is that throughout that tournament, I was injured. In fact, I had been injured for months. But that's not uncommon for the sport. In professional and in amateur like this, there's lots of people that were injured during the matches and heck, even got injured while we were there. I mean, shoot, I thought I killed a guy. The nature of the sport, though, is there's lots of takedowns. You kind of put your body in harm's way in order to not touch the ground first. Depending on what style of tachi or initial burst that you do, you're headbutting every time. And then you add on to that most of the time these wrestlers are over 300 pounds, which means either A, 300 pounds of yourself is falling down on yourself, or even worse, 300 pounds of you plus 300 pounds of somebody else are falling down on you. That is risky business. In my case, I got my injury from a judo tournament and then a judo test. This was my first sumo tournament of the year, but imagine being much bigger and having 15 days of matches every other month. Well, for the pros, that's the case. And not only that, but the division that you're set in, how good you are, how close you are to the top, it doesn't pause when you're injured. You can't just say, I gotta take 2 tournaments off my MCL, it's toast. So if you don't compete, you drop back down the ladder. For me, this is a hobby, and I don't take time off, really. I probably should. So is sumo wrestling healthy? I would go out on a limb and say no, but it's not in the ways that people might think. I feel like people see sumo from an outside perspective and automatically assume, oh, those are fat guys, and then kind of just chalk the rest of it being unhealthy up to that, just that they're fat. When in all actuality, their body fat percentage is probably lower than a fair amount of the US population. It is unhealthy in ways that it's kind of just not safe, but a lot of sports aren't really safety first. People will do anything for glory. That being said, this is one of those sports where there's lingering after effects that are caused by things that happen during the sport, like the weight that you put on, the appetite that you build, and the injuries you go through. But there's so many ways to do this sport that you mitigate those risks. You can compete and not get injured regularly. You can compete and not be the biggest you have to be. Amateur sumo is great because I get to be under 254 pounds, be the biggest guy in my division. It'll make it much easier for me to lose weight after I'm done. I get a fantastic exercise routine because of it, and I get a healthy dose of competition. I think sumo is a good thing. Just like many other circumstances, you can have too much of a good thing, but overall, I would say sumo, if you're doing it at the highest level professionally, might not be healthy long term. In way more regards than people anticipate, I think sumo is healthier than you would think. Thanks for watching. Do me a favor, subscribe, so I don't have to do that ever again. Thank you.